guys. Welcome to this week's edition of the Pantry Chat, Food for Thought. This week, we are talking something that I know has been on your mind. I think it's been on everybody's mind right now, and that is how to curb those rising grocery costs. We're going to be talking about it with Amy Cross, who writes a book, The Zero Waste Produce Guide. And I'm really excited about this because Amy shares the secrets on how to make your produce last longer, meaning she's going to talk to us about how to make fresh blueberries last for 6 to 8 weeks in your refrigerator. Like, wow, isn't that amazing? In this episode, Amy shares the stat that amongst Americans, it's between 40 and 60% of food that's brought into American households that ends up being wasted. And so here is an amazing way to save a whole lot of money off the top of your grocery budget before you ever even spend it in the first place, just by doing better with storing your produce so that you don't have to buy it again. Amy is a wife, a mom. She's an author, she's a speaker and a content creator, and the founder of The Cross Legacy. Eating fresh produce was always vital for Amy's family, but during a health struggle with pain and low energy, grocery shopping became really challenging. She prioritized healthy eating by preparing produce on good days for those tougher days and developing methods to keep it fresh for weeks. Amy shares these tips on her YouTube channel and in her Zero Waste Produce Guide, a hardcover book with washing and storing instructions for 75 different fruits, vegetables, and herbs, plus some recipes, organization tips, and a quick reference guide. So you guys are going to want to check that out. And we're going to bring Amy up here in just a minute. But before we do, let's thank today's sponsor of the Pantry Chat, and that is Lehmans. From plant to plate to pantry, Lehmans has the gardening tools and the accessories to plant your garden, the cooking and baking and serving dishes and pans to plate your produce, and the food preservation supplies to fill your pantry. You can find just about any practical tool you'll need and then some. And don't forget to think about gift giving when it comes to Lehmans. They have all sorts of amazing things. So from birthdays to weddings to holiday stocking stuffers, you'll want to plan ahead and check out Lehmans. You know, Josh and I have been buying things from Lehmans for almost 2 decades now, and we are always impressed with the quality. We're not talking cheap stuff like we're unfortunately fairly used to here in the United States. We're talking about heirloom quality items that are going to last a really long time, so you don't have to buy them again. Yay! It's great when you don't have to manage your stuff by buying it over and over again because it breaks or tears or wears out. So definitely go check out Lehmans. And if you want to hear about any specials that Lehman's having, make sure that you are on our email list over at homesteadingfamily.com, where we will definitely let you know when they have specials. Okay, well, let's dive right into reducing food waste. You know, as homesteading moms, we know that kitchen scraps can feed chickens, but we don't want to toss produce that we've paid for or grown with love unless we absolutely have to, even if it's going to the chicken coop. So Amy, your Zero Waste Produce Guide is an absolute game changer. I have heard several of my friends have actually told me about your guide, and it really works. I'm making things last for so much longer, which I just absolutely love. So I'm really excited to get to dive in and hear about what you're doing and what you're teaching, because this is definitely this time in history right now. We're kind of seeing the need to make every bit of food count and our grocery budget count even more. So you're really helping people to do that. But I want to go right back to the very beginning. take us back to a moment for you, maybe like wilted greens or spoiled berries or something like that that frustrated you and inspired your zero waste produce guide to help other moms like us.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I grew up on a large farm and we just didn't, waste food. Like we made sure that we, ate things in season and that kind of thing. But during the pandemic, I was on social media on somebody else's like website and or her Facebook group, and there were so many scared moms that were scared to take their kids to the store. And when they did take their kids to the store, they were scared to leave the house again for, 2 more weeks, like all of the things that we were all dealing with right at the beginning of the pandemic, especially with like empty shelves and stuff. And question after question kept being like, well, I'm just buying packaged things because I think those are safer because I can wipe down the packages of them, like those kind of things. And then there was so many moms saying that they were afraid to bring in the produce, or if they did bring in the produce, then it only lasts a couple of days. And then they went 10 more days without having produce in the house. And there was one question on there that I happened to answer because somebody was like, I get blueberries and they're going bad in 4 days. And I responded back and I'm like, what are you talking about? My blueberries in the fridge are a month old right now. Like blueberries last 6 to 8 weeks if you wash them and you store them correctly. And I mean, if you have a huge family and you're eating them, that's great, but not throwing them away. And Jordan Page, she's the one that had the group, the page. And anyways, she messaged me right away and she's like, Amy, you know secrets here that people just don't know. And I grew up on a large farm. So like bringing produce home and washing it is just something that I naturally did. And we are also foster parents. So I started storing things in glass a few years ago. So the littles that were coming into my house could point and see what the different items were. And that way they could like point out what they wanted because they didn't have the names for the berries and different things. And when you have 4 under 7 that are brand new to your house and you need, do you want this or do you want that? And being able to show them what those berries are. But it just started this whole thing that I didn't realize that I had these skills that were helping now millions of people around the world.
Oh, that's so neat. What's the most surprising produce that you've kept fresh for an extended amount of time?
So our family varies. We have college age students, and then we have foster kids and us, and our grandma was living here. So currently for the last year, we are only a family of 2. So if you have more in the family, like you might need to go grocery shopping more often. But I only go grocery shopping every 3 to 4 weeks, and we have 0 produce waste. So
Okay. Wow.
I can keep everything fresh the whole
Everything.
entire time. Yeah.
Everything's the answer. I love that. That's so cool. Well, and even some of us like, I have an ongoing joke in my house about me going to the grocery store because inevitably I'll run into a subscriber or a listener or somebody. And the things that we buy at the grocery store at this point are all the junk food. So we buy chips and we buy chocolate and like the occasional thing of like popsicles or, it's the junk food. And so I'm always like meeting people and like trying to hide my grocery cart behind me because I'm like, this is not actually all that we eat, I promise. So it's kind of an ongoing joke in our family. But the one thing that we do buy regularly produce wise from the grocery store is something that I wish I could stock up on so I didn't have to go to the grocery store so often. And that's lettuce in the winter. I have not perfected winter growing here in the far north of Idaho. I can't even make it out to my greenhouse where it's located right now. But you did a TED Talk actually, which like my hat's off to you. That is the scariest thing I can think of having to do. So that's amazing. But you were talking about keeping 3-week-old lettuce, making it still crispy. How does that work?
The lettuce I had on stage that day was 4 weeks old and it traveled with us 6 hours over there. So it was legit. legit. But yeah, when you're bringing your items home, most of the items I'm washing with a vinegar wash. That is how I was raised washing them. From Mrs. Cooper. I grew up at Cooper's Corner on a 5th generational farm. That was just how we did things. Over the years, I've learned that the 5% distilled white wine vinegar will kill off the mold spores, E. coli, Listeria, and any other harmful pathogens that are on it. And so that's why we use vinegar. And I have a really specific measurement and time and stuff that we do for it. But when you bring it home and wash it, and then you're going to rinse it off, because you'll be surprised if you're getting things, how many bugs and different things are on your lettuce and different items. But you rinse it off and you lay it out on a towel to dry until it's bone dry. If you have a salad spinner, that cuts the time down. But I store it in a glass container that has a snapware lid for the lettuce and then a paper towel at the bottom. And I have a couple tricks too to help it last a little bit longer when you're putting it into the container. I always say to make sure that it looks like a roof and that the stem is at the top, because the lettuce will continue to release a little bit of moisture, and that way it kind of rolls off of it and not collecting in a boat. So it's just kind of something to think about when you're actually putting it away. But yeah, lettuce and spinach will last a month easily.
Oh my goodness. That is so great, because I honestly feel like I get lettuce, I get it home, and within like 2 days it's getting slimy or, something not great. And that's really frustrating if you're like us, where we're like, that's all we need. We say we need our salad. I feel like I need my salad right through the winter. I'm like,
Right.
I want my salad. But if that's all you're going to the grocery store for, and 3 days later you feel like you have to go again just for that, it does get frustrating. So that is an amazing trick.
The spinach also, I store in a stasher bag with the paper towel, and then I can squeeze the air out and it fits into my refrigerator easy. But I only go to the grocery store every 3 or 4 weeks. So if I have a little bit that's left over and I want to be buying more spinach, then I'll just take that paper towel out and I'll put it in the freezer. So then I can add it to eggs or any other recipes also. But greens are the most recalled produce item. And a lot of times people will see, oh, it's been triply washed, I'm fine. And yeah, if you bring it home and wash it yourself, you'll know you've killed off the listeria, which is like why it's recalled all of the time. And, if it's been triply washed and it's still being recalled all of the time, it's just kind of something to think about.
Yes, that's a really good point. Triply washed doesn't mean that it's clean enough to stash in your fridge, right? Yeah. Okay, so you said a stasher bag. Is that a special kind of bag?
Like a silicone bag.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I love that. So it's reusable then.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
so great. I really don't like buying things just to throw it away. So anywhere where I can find the reusable products just make me very, very happy. So that is great.
We have a couple. Oh, sorry. We have a couple plastic lids in our refrigerator. The berries actually do better with a plastic lid, but for the most part, like I've been trying to reduce all of the plastic in our house, and so as much as I can do for that, but being able to have all of our food storage in glass, you really do notice how much it lasts longer. Even when you're buying like those Costco containers of like cottage cheese or Greek yogurt, storing those in glass will also save a bunch of space in your refrigerator, but it'll last like 2 weeks past that best by date.
Oh, that is good to know. My kids, I drive my kids crazy because when we bring pantry items in, I am very emphatic about we don't store it in the original packaging.
Mm-hmm.
If it's dry goods, we take it out, we put it in our bulk storage, whatever that looks like. And that saves a lot of trouble with like pantry moths or any sort of insects in there, also with things getting damp in their paper packaging. But I have not gotten that far with things that would go in the refrigerator, like cottage cheese. So I'm excited now. It gives me a reason to buy all those nice little square glass containers that actually fit into the refrigerator, because then you can stack things.
The mason jar, quart-sized mason jar is the best with the metal lid. So that's how I do it. And then you're getting everything in the same size, and you can store so much more in your refrigerator.
Oh, that's really neat. Do you have a refrigerator organization method, or does it just kind of all go in and get shuffled around like my house?
I kind of have different zones for things. We do have a cold spot in our refrigerator. So I've learned like not to put any produce up in the top right-hand side of my refrigerator. And then some of the things I had put in there because I like it to look pretty. Like if it looks pretty when you go to open up the refrigerator, you're more likely to eat it. So I started putting lemons and avocados in the same drawer. My husband eats a lemon or drinks lemon tea every single day. So we always have a bunch of lemons and avocados together because I just like the way that they look together. And then I realized that my avocados were lasting a really long time. So over this and all the research that I've done, I found out lemons and avocados are actually produce buddies and they will keep each other fresh over a month. So, I mean, lemons can last a lot longer than that, but an avocado will actually last over a month. And when you're buying organic avocados or organic bananas, they're not sprayed with ethylene. And so that's a growth ripening hormone. And those two items, even if you don't buy organic for everything, those two will end up saving you money buying organic because they ripen naturally.
That's amazing. In my mind, you're not even supposed to put avocados into the refrigerator. And so they always go out on the shelf and then the avocados, everybody knows avocados, right? I have this love-hate relationship with them. We're in North Idaho. They get shipped in from a long ways away. You're far north too. So you're familiar with the same thing. So when you get them, they're either underripe or they're right on the edge of just ripe. And so it seems like when you put them on the counter, you either forget about them when they're underripe or you just happen to miss their perfect ripeness. So I love the idea of them being in the refrigerator and that slow down effect of the lemons.
But learning about the lemons is actually or not the lemons, but the avocados, that trick is actually what saved our grocery budget because I used to go to the grocery store, 2-3 times a week to grab an avocado. And, then it used to be like, oh, I'm spending $50 here and 25 there. But now you can't even walk into the grocery store without it being crazy. And so being able to learn how to keep those avocados longer, it was like the one produce item that was making me go to the store more often. And our grocery budget is $135 per person in our family. And we have 2. So I'm spending $270 per month on groceries. And we haven't went out to eat in 2025. We are saving to move and staging our house and doing some other fun things. So we have not had any takeout or anything else. Like we've really been living off of all of the ingredients in our house and making dinner every single day. But well, sometimes it's pulled out of the freezer. I'm not actually making dinner, but it's coming from the food that's in our house. But over the last year, our grocery budget has been $270 per month. And then, it kind of fluctuates when there's other people here in the house. But I've really been able to stick to that and bring in whole ingredients that are, healthy for you and good for you. And it's really been amazing, all the families that we've been able to help. If you don't know, like the average family is throwing away 40 to 60% of the food that they're buying.
Oh my goodness. That's a lot of food.
It's a lot of food. So if you're thinking about all the produce that's getting thrown away or leftovers that, are going into the refrigerator and getting thrown away or things that are not getting rotated out of your freezer, things that are going stale in the pantry, like the average family is throwing away 40 to 60% in the United States. And then I found out over this that, bigger families do better about their grocery budget, but even families of 2 or 3 are spending on average $1,000 a month on groceries because they're going to the grocery store all the time and they're grabbing all these things and, $200 a week. No big deal. I'm just going to go to the grocery store again. I'm going to get something else. They're throwing away 60% of that. They're throwing away $600 a month in groceries. Like we have zero food waste. And that's why we can keep our grocery budget the way it is.
So you hear people talking about how expensive groceries are getting, and maybe the problem at its heart isn't really the groceries themselves. It's the habit that we've gotten into of buying things just to waste it.
Yes.
And that's amazing. So it's kind of neat to think when people are saying, oh, I can't get the expensive food. I can't get the organic now because it's too expensive. Well, maybe you can if you just dial back the food waste instead of dialing back the quality of the food that you're getting.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're mostly organic. I normally say we're an 80-20 family. We have allergies. And so and I'm diabetic. So those like qualifications are, number one. And then, trying to get the best quality items that we can into our house is important for us. And for the most part, I try to be like a single ingredient, house. We're not buying a bunch of things that are prepackaged because we're an allergy family. And really, the only thing that I've really noticed, like in my freezers and stuff, that's different than it was maybe 5 years ago is bacon. I don't have as much bacon in the freezer as I used to, but again, it's okay. But everything else, like I've been able to still get, the butter that I like to get, all of the things and stay with that grocery budget. And we post all of my grocery hauls and what I have been eating and making for the last 2 weeks all on YouTube. So you can see the ingredients that we're bringing in. And literally everybody recognizes me in my area. So like, I'm not running to the grocery store because somebody would be like, I saw you,
It
So
gets to be a long grocery store trip.
yeah.
Well, I love it that you're like totally living it. That just makes it so practical because you know what's really working. It's not just a numbers game. It's like, how does it work for the lifestyle? How does it actually help you to feel good about what you're eating? And I know sometimes that, I don't know about you guys, but for me, sometimes if I have to get like really, really tight on a budget, it actually has a little bit of a life sucking quality to it because I'm a little bit of an artistic person. Not that I want to go spend money frivolously all over the place, but just living my life by the science of the penny, it starts feeling really constricting to me. And so the idea that, well, let's just do better with what we already have. And that allows us maybe to throw in a few of those fun items, a few of the chocolate bar, the chips for my family or whatever it is, that it's a nicer way to live. It's a little more gentle way to live on ourselves, I think.
We went through a major financial crisis about 10 years ago. Well, there was like one like 15 years ago and 12 years ago. I have reflective sympathetic dystrophy. So um, I've had to have a spinal cord surgery, like all kinds of
Wow.
major medical things. I've been in wheelchairs for a season of a life. And then one of our kiddos had some major medical things with the tumor scare
Oh,
thing
wow.
that we don't talk more than that about. So that's about all I'll say. But anyways, through all of that, at one point, Mike and I, between the two of us, we were working 5 jobs just to make sure that our co-pays were paid, like everything was down to the bare necessities of, what we could do, at the house. Like we cut our cable, we cut everything. There was no extra spending just to make sure that we could pick up prescriptions or take,
Ugh.
go to the, different physical therapies and all those kind of things. In my TED Talk, I talk about how my hands were paralyzed for 2 years and I couldn't even feed myself. And I'm totally healthy now, but
Wow.
knowing those financial crises, we really, back then, like 15 years ago, our grocery budget was $100 per person in the family. And that's what Mike could do on his salary, knowing that, we had everything else covered. And, for years, we didn't buy paper towels or we didn't buy anything extra, anything that we could, cut from the budget. And we've stuck to that budget over the years, making it more organic and different things. I've bumped it up to 135, but we've stayed at that same budget like since 2015 or 2016. Like it's been a long time to be able to do that. But I really understand that weight of worrying about having the groceries in your house or not having anything to eat or worrying about if you can make it a couple more days until payday. And all of the women and the families that we're helping that are really, really, really struggling with making sure that they have food in their house. And it's so overwhelming. And, I understand that because we lived it for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it gives you a really close working relationship with how to make this actually doable and actually work for people. So that it sounds like quite a story all in itself. Your health journey, I'm sure, is quite a story. But I want to go back to your very first conversation there about the blueberries in the refrigerator, because I really identify with that person who says, if I get fresh berries, they're bad really quickly. Um, Walk us through the washing and the storing of fresh summer berries, like let's say strawberries, to keep them good for longer.
So berries, especially when you're getting them in season, blackberries and raspberries will last 2 to 3 weeks. So you have to think about how far they've traveled. If you get them locally, they're going to last 3 weeks. If they came from Mexico, they're going to last,
A lot
So
less.
you have to think about that. But strawberries will normally last around 3 weeks, and then grapes will last 4 to 6 weeks, and blueberries will last 6 to 8 weeks. So I
Wow.
can go
6 to
grocery
8 weeks.
shopping. 6 to 8 weeks, yeah. So I
That's
can go
wild.
grocery shopping and buy different produce items, or like every other time I get blueberries and then I'm able to get blackberries instead, and we can still have all of these different options here, especially when we had all the little kids here and everybody wanted something different. But learning that those can actually last longer, when you take the time to do it is really neat, to be able to save your budget. But I wash it with a quarter cup of distilled white vinegar to 10 cups of water for 2 minutes. And you need to set a timer. Do not soak it for longer than that, for 2 minutes. And then I rinse them off. Once you see that water, you're going to want to rinse them off. And I lay them out on a towel until it's totally bone dry. And then I put them in the refrigerator, normally in a 1/2 gallon size jar for like the strawberries. And then with a paper towel. And for the berries, they actually do better with a plastic lid. So the plastic lid is a little tiny bit porous, and it'll let a little bit of the condensation escape, where a metal lid is completely airtight. So like a half of an avocado, if you're only eating half of an avocado, you can put that in a glass jar with a metal lid, and that will stay fresh for about a week after you've cut it. But with the metal lid, or like chopped onions with the metal lid, that won't make your refrigerator smell, like onions. So it's just good to learn these different tricks that I teach, and then you can be able to not have to feel like you have to eat everything all at once so it doesn't go to waste.
Yeah, that's mind blowing to make cut avocados last that long is absolutely amazing. I really, I'm gonna give this a try. I
Well,
was
I'm
sitting here thinking, I guess I don't store a lot of cut avocados, and then I thought, oh, well, of course I don't. Everybody eats them the moment I cut into them in the house. But excuse me, but it does. The times that I've tried it, they go bad so quickly, like overnight type quickly. It's so quickly, so that is amazing.
Yeah, I'm diabetic, so like I can't eat a whole apple in one day. So doing the same thing with a metal lid, like the wide mouth pint jars and half an apple, is perfect. And then like you can even, this is kind of funny. One of the littles that we had here in our house like to open the bananas and then tried to run around trying to get somebody else to eat the bananas. Like it was this whole thing. And anyways, I learned that you can store half of a banana in a glass jar with a metal lid, and it'll actually stay fresh for a few more days too. So especially if you have like a toddler that, isn't eating very much, or, like when our grandma was here too, her appetite was so small at 95, she couldn't eat a lot. And so being able to save those things so she could eat it the next day was really great.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I actually have our youngest right now is 2 years old, and we have the open banana syndrome
Mhm.
in our house sometimes too. He learned how to peel them, and now he just likes peeling them and yeah,
Yeah.
handing them around or leaving them around, or it's
Yep.
fun. So I know you are busy. You've talked about having foster kids. You've got all sorts of things going on. You're also a content creator, sharing this with so many different people. Do you have any quick, like, time-saving hacks for washing and storing produce, to keep your kitchen running smoothly? Like, let's say you have shopping day and it's time to come home. How do you do that efficiently if you have a bunch of things to do?
So shopping day is kind of funny for us because the content team comes and follows me around the grocery store. But anyways, it's a fun thing. But when you bring it home and you're not filming, it normally only takes about 30 to 40 minutes to
Oh,
wash all of your produce, especially as you start doing it a little bit more and get, used to the whole process. And then it lays out on the counter to dry for a couple hours until you go to put it away. And putting it away takes like 10 minutes. It's my favorite part, to make, the fridge go from looking empty to beautiful. And then kind of as I'm meal prepping in the next couple days or whatever, then I'll start like cutting the carrots and doing different things. So we always have, carrots and celery that are sliced and ready to go. And then anytime I cut a pepper, I'm normally wanting like 2 or 3 different colors. So then I'm like slicing up the rest of it and putting in jars. So those are ready to go. Half an onion, that's always another one. Like I always have half an onion, it seems like, that I chopped and put, but I don't necessarily do those chopping things like at one time. I just kind of do it as I'm cooking dinner, and then I'll do extra, and then we have it in the refrigerator. But it really doesn't take that much time. The one thing I get a lot is people like, oh, if I leave that out on the counter, like my kids are going to eat it. It's going to be gone. And just know that your kids or your husband or whoever is going to eat a little bit more produce that day. And it's an okay thing, And so I've kind of taught them, like, if grapes come off of the stem, they spoil a little bit quicker. So as I'm washing them, I'll move those, grapes over to the side, like grab those grapes. Or if I notice that, a berry is bruised, but it's still, totally fine, I will move those over to the side of the counter. So, I'm encouraging them to eat them. And, it's really funny. My husband doesn't like tomatoes, but he'll eat them on washing day. So like he'll walk by and grab a cherry tomato, so you just never know. But
That's funny.
it's a good thing to have them involved, and especially like, littles. I have a preschool teaching degree, like littles, being able to get involved in the kitchen and seeing where their food's coming from or growing their food, is so important to know that it's not just coming from a box or something, but having them help you, wash those produce items and, bob them down in the water, it's fun. And you can get a couple busy at the same time.
That's great. That's really good. So when you're talking about your methods for washing, does every type of produce have a different ideal washing method and time? You talked about different times. You talked about different ratios of water to vinegar. Does that break down by produce type, I guess?
So most of the items in our book, we have 75 produce items in the Zero Waste Produce Guide. Most of the items are the same method. And there's other tips of this needs a paper towel and this doesn't, or this needs this kind of lid, that kind of thing. And then some items I wash with salt water. And again, it's the way I was raised. And that's, so your cabbages and broccoli and those kind of things, I'm washing with the salt water, which kills off the cabbage bugs in them.
Yeah,
And
okay.
especially when you're getting organic ones,
Look at that.
Yeah. And then, it's important to know which items not to wash, but also that it's important to know what items are produce buddies and which ones are not produce buddies. So we talked about the avocados and the lemons being together, but a lot of people don't know that that fruit bowl on their counter is actually making things spoil quicker too. So
Oh,
oranges and bananas and apples all are frenemies. They like think that they should be nice together and they're not. And so those make each other spoil quicker when they're stored together. Potatoes and onions, I feel like in the homesteading community, we know this one shouldn't be stored together as much, but it's really eye-opening for other families that are not homesteaders to learn that, some things belong together and some things don't belong together. And just making those little switches will help things last longer.
so speaking of homesteading, how do you change your methods, or do you at all, or do you have any tips for people who are bringing in garden fresh produce versus bringing it in from a grocery store?
We have a small garden. We live in town. I grew up on a 200-acre fifth generational farm, so we've experienced it all. But I have a garden here that we joke that half of it's for the neighbor kids. But your picking times are important when you're bringing things inside, and then it's not in the heat of the day. But using these same methods, whether or not they are homegrown or you're getting them at the grocery store, really helps for all different types of produce.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. And I know for me, one of the tendencies there when bringing in a big basket of produce straight out of the garden, it can be really easy just to set the produce down in the basket and then kind of walk away. You know, you got to go take your garden gloves and hang them up or put them away and take the muddy boots off and deal with all the problems you walk back into the house to, you know, from the kids. And that leaving them sitting there for extended periods of time does not do any favors. So dealing with them right away.
Right away, right away. And then we haven't talked about herbs at all.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, so bringing those in, especially like parsley and cilantro, even if you get them from the grocery store, you can make those last around 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. So, and that's a really important one when you're going to wash it. You're going to trim off the ends of the stem, which open up the vascular system of the plant. But you want to make sure that you're using well water or filtered water, but not the city tap water that has chlorine in it. So the chlorine is going to end up killing the plant, where filtered water that you would normally drink, and you know, we don't drink our tap water, so I can like smell the chlorine when I go to pour it.
Yeah.
Anyways, but if you do that for any of your soft stem herbs, not the woody, not like rosemary, but the any of like your thyme or oregano, and you know, parsley, cilantro, even mint. My light's flickering. Those will make them last so much longer. And then you can do the same thing with artichokes and asparagus and broccoli, that you trim off the end of them. And asparagus will last over a month in the refrigerator. Broccoli and artichokes, the same thing. And so about every 10 days, I'll put new water into the glass, the jar that I have it in, and then just trim that end again because it gets calloused over. And that way it just continues to suck up the water.
So kind of like a bouquet of flowers that you would bring home, just like cut the stems, wash them, cut the stems. Then do you cover them in any way?
I try to reduce all the plastic. So there's no reason to cover them. So they'll last 6 to 8 weeks if you just do those steps.
I love it. So we've been doing that with asparagus, and that works really, like it really keeps the asparagus in great quality in our house. Sometimes our asparagus bed is just kind of getting going. It's not up to full production yet as a perennial. And so sometimes we'll be like, oh, today we just have a handful of asparagus and it's not enough to make a meal. So it's really nice if you have these tricks to be able to like extend you know, the storage of your fresh vegetables until you have enough to make a meal out of it. And that's what we do with the asparagus, just that way. And I am very impressed with how well it works. It really keeps them very, very like crisp for a nice long time.
Yeah, it's been kind of fun. I was on the news program in Ireland because of asparagus. Like I've been in the media, like in the UK and Australia and different places because, well, berries, like that blew up at the
Sure.
very beginning. Strawberries in a jar, but the strawberries in a jar, but avocados and asparagus, those seem like worldwide, like people are picking up on these tips that I'm teaching. And it's just kind of fun that we have followers from all over the world, saving money on groceries.
That's really neat. And it's just such a important message to so many people. And I think we've lost so much of this heritage. You said you learned it growing up on the farm in a lot of ways. I'm sure you've added to your tricks as you've been playing with it and been learning more. But so many of us are hungry for some of these heritage things that we've kind of lost as the families have gotten a little bit broken. And, you know, coming back to a season where we need to pinch the pennies, we need to watch everything grocery wise. It makes us a little aware of the skills that we don't have anymore and hungry for these heirloom skills. So it's just such a service that you are passing these things down and helping all of us to learn these things and not forget them for the next generation,
Right.
because they're going to need them too at some point. So that's really neat. So for moms who are busy, they can't tackle everything. Maybe they feel like, oh, how would I possibly tie in washing all the produce when I get home from the grocery store? Do you have one thing that you would say to them about, you know, maybe one technique or one thing that would just help them in their busyness?
People don't think about going to the grocery store as something that's time consuming. So again, I'm going to the grocery store every 3 to 4 weeks. and then putting the groceries away when I get home, and people don't think about like, oh, I'm going to run to the grocery store. That takes 10 minutes or 20 minutes to get there. I'm going to go into the grocery store. I'm going to get the things and I'm going to bring them home. Like once you're starting to learn how to really stock your house with ingredients that you can make all the different kinds of meals. And I teach how to batch cook easy meals too. So you can pull them out, that not needing to go to the store all of the time is a huge thing. So being able to, rethink the way that you're thinking about your time and what's important. And, even if you have to, concentrate a little bit more when you're on your shopping day, that you're not running to the grocery store as often. But I mean, I know very few people right now in this day and age of everything happening that just has extra income, so we don't have extra income and we don't have extra time. And when you're learning these skills, and it can really help you save both of those things. And somebody told me right at the very beginning that I was bringing hope back to the kitchen, like to like take some of that stress away. And that has just resonated with me this entire last 3 years of everything that has happened, that, we're helping families bring hope back to the kitchen and it not be a stressful thing. And, being able to show easy meals that you can just pull out, like something as easy as like doing 5 pounds for us, we're a smaller family, doing 5 pounds of taco meat at a time and putting those away in the freezer that I have enough for dinner that night and then dinner for multiple nights. We can have tacos once a week. It's, it makes everybody happy in our family. And, being able to learn some of those skills are just basic skills that are lost, and they're lost. I'm 49, I'm pushing 50, but my generation and the generation before me, like it's only just been work, work, work. And so I'm so thankful that I grew up in a household that my grandma also lived with us growing up, because she had 8 kids on one budget. Like she could stretch anything or make it work or know how to swap out recipes. And, that's the way I learned how to cook. And, my kids have been very thankful since I started the blog that I'm writing down recipes, and I actually have to figure out what it is, because it's a little bit of this and it's a little bit of that, and you make it work. But those skills are lost, and people forget that you can swap out different ingredients that you might have and it'll serve the same purpose. We have kind of a happy accident we talk about with our sloppy joes. Like I was trying to use up some marinara sauce that was in the refrigerator from some pizza that I had made, and I put it in our sloppy joes and realized like, oh, this made this like really rich and flavorful, adding that instead of the tomato sauce. And so now like every time I do it, I add the marinara sauce to it. But I literally was just trying to clean out my fridge. I was just trying to use something up that I had in my refrigerator that wasn't going to go bad.
Yeah, that is so neat. And I think, Amy, that your kids are not the only one who are thankful that you are writing these things down and sharing with us, sharing them with so many people. So thank you so much for these amazing tips. And they're going to keep our pantries thriving. So thank you. And kitchens, definitely hope to the kitchen. I love it. Hey, you guys, I definitely think you should check out Amy's Zero Waste Produce Guide. We'll put a link down in the description for you, or you can go check it out at thecrosslegacyshop.com. So you can go there and take a look. You can also follow her on Instagram at The Cross Legacy, or YouTube, same handle, The Cross Legacy. And make sure you go look her up and tell her thank you and learn everything you can, because right now we all know we can all handle making that grocery budget stretch a little bit more, save a little bit more time, and not have to spend the time that we have at the grocery store running errands, but rather we can spend it with our loved ones, making memories and meals together in the kitchen. So thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you for having me. We have a special discount code for you too.
Oh,
so it's Homestead 15.
All
if
right.
you go to that link to get the book. So.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate that. And we'll have all that information for you in the show notes or the description. So take a peek there if you want the clickable link. So thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.